9.2 million last week.
That is awesome. Tough one to follow, but we'll take it. All right, who else has a positive focus? Something that's going well in the business that you want to let us in on, or you just want to share?
I had a couple of members from my office ask me to start a team, so that's what we're doing. Just starting a team this week.
That is awesome. Awesome. They view you as a leader. In times like this, it's like they look to people that have their stuff together. So that's good. That's a good what's the word for it? I can't even think of the word. My brain is super foggy today. I'm coming off a cold, so I'm all morning I cannot find the words for anything. So I'm gonna make TJ, he's gonna do all the talking anyway. All right, cameras on. So I can see all the pretty faces. We only get one time a week where we're all together to see each other and connect. All right, what else? Positive focus. Something that's working well in the business. I'll pull up the chat here. We got an Otter pilot in here. $1 million listing closing on Monday. Richie, I know you're driving, but anything to share there on lead source or any words of wisdom for the group? Is this the follow-up one?
No,
Richie, eyes on the road.
No, it's okay. This is a long deal. This is a listing I went on. I did once on a lot of listings in that neighborhood. They didn't go with me because I wasn't the horse guy. They had a horse property. Was on the market for 90 days with another agent. They fired the agent. They hired me and lowered the price a little bit, but that we stayed on the market for 62 days and finally under contract. Is a home sale contingency. I mean, you name it, everything went on and we got it. We're going hopefully Monday. We're done. This thing will be done, bro.
Yeah, that is awesome. You know what's funny about that? Like, if there are any horse people on like horse real estate agents, ignore what I'm about to say because it might sound bad. But I always see those like horse agents, like their listings stay on the market for a gazillion years. I don't know what it is. So, I think it's ridiculous when people try to put you in a, what's the expression from Dirty Dancing? Like nobody puts baby in a corner or whatever. So that's awesome, Richie. I appreciate you sharing that.
Thank you.
Did they reach out to you or did you kind of have them did they stay on your drip campaign or what was that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they were a cold call from years ago too. So it was really a bummer that I didn't get the listing because I was so persistent and, dedicated to that neighborhood, but they still went with the horse lady. But yeah, stayed on top of them, sent them note cards and kind of checked in from time to time, asking if there's anything I can do to help. And I sold the neighbor's house while their house was on the market with the other agent. So I was like, now what's up? So you guys got to use me this time.
Now you're going to be called the horseman. So she's the horse lady. And now you're the horseman. Joe Grant, anything to share about Joe took a listing and have a listing appointment this afternoon? Joe Grant.
Yeah. So that new listing I just took, it's a pre-foreclosure, tenant occupied, having a couple issues getting the tenant to let us see the property and get that going. Okay.
Awesome.
But the people facing foreclosure, they're either motivated to sell, but it just takes you reaching out to them with options and putting the options in front of them. This woman has plenty of equity in the house, and since it's a rental, she's more than happy to sell it quick. We just have to get around the tenant problem right now.
Awesome.
And that's also what the listing appointment this afternoon is educating them on their options, and if they want to save it, setting up a plan B option to, hey, if these options to save it don't help and they fall through, let's have a cash option to buy or a quick sale option to sell.
Awesome. And just staying in just staying in the activity, the core activity, just having conversations every day, right?
8 to 10:30 every morning on my dialer.
Awesome. Great. I only see like 3 positive foci, and there are way more than that on this call. So everyone, literally everyone. Well, Lambo raised his hand. Lambo, I was
actually trying to figure out how to raise my hand. I'm used to these Google Meets, and I couldn't find it. But now I actually just closed on my first listing. this last Tuesday. It was actually similar to Richie's. It was $1 million listing, a cattle farm that I didn't know anything about, that was listed last year as well and was on the market forever, and they ended up pulling it. And we had to go over some hurdles, but got it done and closed this last week. So I'm excited about that.
So now you're the cattle guy.
Yeah, basically.
I was talking about our meeting today. Brandon is new to our team, but he's been in sales for a long time, and somehow he turned on to Bonifay cattle farms. I'm like, how'd you get into that shit? He's like, I don't know. I don't know anything about cattle. I don't know about these farms, but he jumped out there and got it. And then he just put another 200-acre parcel under contract. And Bonifay also. Bonifay is like BFE north of everywhere we live. I'm like, Brandon, that's your niche, brother. Cows and horses.
That's awesome.
Stay the cow, hire Brandon.
I love it. James had a good comment here. We talked about this yesterday. I think real estate's freaking hard, right? Does everybody agree with that? Just in general, in any market, real estate's hard. Raise your hand if you agree with that. Is this market really hard? Raise your hand again. So it would be understandable if you were to just decide that from Thanksgiving going forward, you're just going to take it easy. James made a good comment. This is the time to clean up your database and contact everyone, like triple, quadruple the size of your database. 2 screens, you've got Facebook or your Gmail or your cell phone open, and you're just loading up your actual CRM. You're messaging people on Facebook and saying, hey, listen, it's been a while since we connected. Would it be okay if I sent you a monthly market update? Great. What's your email? What's your physical address? Right? Take on the challenge to build out your database and contact literally every single person in your database has to get a reach out from you. And just say, hey, what's going on? Whatever your script is around your sphere. We've got a ton of scripts that you guys can use for that as well. But don't fall into the self-fulfilling prophecy that it's just slow. There's no one's listing their homes. On top of it being a bad market, it's the wrong time of year to do real estate. All that's just kind of made up, and it doesn't actually translate, because I would say 90% of agents fall into that way of thinking, and it affects their actions. And then they have a crappy December, they have a crappy January, and then they're just playing catch up, and they're 90 to 120 days off track of what you could achieve next year. And it starts this year. Okay. So don't do it.
And James didn't mention that just from his reconnection, he got north of $1 million listing from one of his past clients and another buyer in place.
Yeah. Awesome.
And it's so uninvasive. You know what I mean? Like, to just call somebody to wish them a happy Thanksgiving or a Merry Christmas. It's uninvasive. It's not a sales call. It's a genuine call that is actually a sales call if for our perspective. But, so many times people just don't want to answer if it's the middle of the year and they see their real estate agent calling them. Sometimes they're like, oh, I don't know. But during the holidays, it's uninvasive to say, man, I hope your family's doing great and happy Thanksgiving. And it works for sure.
Yeah. And the
100%,
only way,
man. I'm sorry, Lars. I just wanted to add on that. My jam is video messages going direct to the customer. Just a 30-second, 60-second greeting. Hope you're having a great Thanksgiving. Let's reconnect. Let's talk about that beach home we talked about last year, whatever that conversation is. And it's I get a great response from it every year. Sets me up for a great Q1.
yeah. And there are different ways to do that. You could do that on Facebook Messenger. You could do it over text, right? How are you doing it, James?
I'm going direct over text, just a video right on my phone, straight to the iPhone.
Awesome. Yeah, because nobody takes the time out to do anything personal anymore, right? So I think all your business is sitting right in your database. I won't even tell the story. We're gonna put TJ on here. Let me make you the spotlight, and let's unpack this thing. So TJ, give like a couple minutes on like why would we listen to you, and then we're going to unpack. We definitely want to get to the land stuff, but I also want to figure out, like, were you on when Nathan unpacked his stuff a few weeks ago?
I was not, unfortunately. I was out of town.
Unfortunately not.
The way that I did it was like, I could have just gone to like, man, Nathan has 1,500, like you guys together have 1,500 new builds coming out and like focused on all of that stuff. And it would leave us all with nothing to do. So I want to get to know your story a little bit. And then who the heck knows where this is going to go? We're going to cover land acquisition, but there's probably something that you've done, or, we may just hone in on different things in your story that can really impact everybody. So as you're kind of telling your story, say like, yeah, when I was first, discouraged, I would do this every day, or like, this is how I ran my calendar, or this is how I would have the conversations, or I know nothing about land. But just unpack it in a way where there's nobody on this call that can't take action on it. Okay. So start with a couple of minutes, just generally about your story, and then we'll kind of unpack what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So, TJ Martin with the Abbott Martin Group, co-owner with Nathan Abbott, who's on the call. I was born and raised in Pensacola, Florida. And to kind of transition into the story, I went to UCF in Orlando. Did not want to stick around in Orlando because it was way too hot compared to North Florida. And I also was just a degenerate kid that figured out how to cheat my way through college. So realized real quickly that I grew up on job sites. My dad was a builder growing up. And so I kind of had a little bit of a passion for it, but didn't realize that I did until once I graduated. I started working for D.R. Horton at the age of 22 and ended up really falling in love with the process, falling in love with watching a big piece of land turn into lots, then turn into houses, then turn into, you drive through there 3 years later and you got kids throwing ball with their dad in the front yard, watching people make memories, and being a part of the inception of that all the way to the finish line, and watching really it change lives, and then reselling those products 5 years later and watching people make hundreds of thousands of dollars on something that you spent your blood, sweat, and tears on to try and make an actual product. And so with that being said, I worked for D.R. Horton for about 3 years, and then transitioned into working for Holiday Builders, which was a much smaller regional builder. And really that kind of made me realize, A, that sitting on site's not easy. If anybody ever tells you being an on-site agent is easy, they're lying to you. But also understanding that there was a huge disconnect between your boutique builders that were doing anywhere from 25 houses to 100 houses a year compared to your D.R. Horton and Holiday Builders that were doing anywhere from 5,000 to 50,000 homes a year. And that disconnect was service. I realized that if agents were getting these big listings that were listing developments, they turned the model homes into agent training grounds, which that's not how you run a development. And I really scratched my head because I was sitting there looking and going, okay, there's a 50 lot development. Let's say your houses are 500,000 a piece. Somebody just trusted you with $25 million worth of listings and you're making it an agent training ground. That doesn't really seem like it's going to be the best process. And honestly, I knew that the D.R. Horton model and some of these bigger builders models was the way, but I just didn't want to be in that corporate realm. I wanted to have more of a camaraderie, treat your clients with respect, help them navigate through processes that a lot of these big builders would just cancel their contract and say, I'll sell it for a higher price. Really just have a heart behind the building platforms. And so when I saw that disconnect, my first goal was to find those builders. And once I found those builders, I knew that I had to show them a value totally different than an agent or a broker coming in that said, hey, I've done a couple $100 million in real estate sales. I've been in the game for 30 years. Like I didn't have any of those accolades yet. And so I knew that I had to bring them something different. And what that really was the value of understanding dirt, understanding the acquisition of it, understanding what floor plans need to go on that dirt, understanding what the ROI on those units are going to be, and really honing in on doing the entire process for the builder. You and I both know if we go to a builder and say, do you know how to build a website? Do you know how to do social media marketing? Do you know how to build yourself logos for each development? You know how to hire on-site agents that are going to sit there 7 days a week and treat it like it's their baby? All those questions they're going to most likely say no to. But I was going to be their yes. So the way I did that and the way I've built this, so essentially over 7 years, I've been able to build a little over almost 1,500 unit runway with pretty much 2 developers in the marketplace that were both not local, but both I could tell wanted to get into our marketplace and understand it to where they could build this platform out. And basically what I did was I said, I'll be your acquisition manager, your marketing department, your sales department, everything that you need, I will handle. I just need you to build houses and I'm going to put opportunity in front of you. But the caveat is we got to have the listings. And so with that being said, that kind of leads into what you really need to do to truly understand what a builder is looking for. So what my first step was is I went and visited every model home that boutique builders were utilizing. And I went in there and acted like I was a consumer. And I took down notes of every single fumble that these agent training grounds were having and made very detailed notes about it. And what I did was created a plan of action of how I would be able to fix those things and how I would be able to then in turn bring them more sales than
And
what
this is this from those builders you wanted to represent? You were kind of ghost shopping, or is every builder out there?
No, I went for the boutique builders. So there was 4 or 5 in our marketplace, but I also wanted to make sure I was aligning with people that have the same morals and respect that I have. So I wanted to at least visit every model to see who I was working with, and then kind of dial it into the people that I think really aligned with who we were as a brand and who we were as a real estate team. And the first one was Nathan and myself actually went after a company called Boswell Builders. Because we realized that we went back into the past, saw when they started the development, saw that they had hired one brokerage, that brokerage failed. They only sold, I think, 6 houses in a year. Then they hired another brokerage that only sold 14 houses in a year. And this was a 15-unit development. And I was used to, no matter what, I had to sell 24 houses or I got fired at any developer that I worked for. So I was scratching my head and trying to understand. So I went in and visited these models. They didn't know about the amenities. They didn't know where the closest grocery store was. They didn't know about school systems. They didn't know about any of it because this was their first time there. And you've got to have people on site that when Sally Sue comes in for the 4th time, you need to be going, hey, Sally Sue, how was that gymnastics tournament that you took your daughter to down in Orlando? Those little touches make them feel comfortable and feel at home in a development that they want to purchase a new home in. So with that said, we went to the Boswells. We showed them exactly where the disconnect was. They hired us and we sold out the rest of the community in 8 months. And fast forward from there, we did the same thing in a development called Preserve It Inlet Beach. We went in there, we realized that they didn't have the right renderings. They didn't understand where their connection was from a standpoint of different lake access, different beach accesses. And I went and sat down with this builder and said, hey, I just want to give you some insight on some things that I think may be lacking where they need to be presented differently. And I'm not doing this to take any listing, but I'm doing this for you to truly understand that you've given somebody $40 million worth of listings. And I think that I might be able to give the public a better understanding of this versus what's happening right now. And that was Bluescape Homes, which you can see I'm wearing their shirt. And we've been in bed together for literally the last 7 years. We have about 900 units coming out of the ground. But what I did for them was totally different. I told them I'd have their model home staff 7 days a week, Monday through Saturday, 10 to 5, Sunday, 1 to 5. I told them that I would build out their entire website for them because they were lacking in their website. I would build out their social media, and I would also make sure that they were actually building the proper plans that were for the marketplace. I was basically value engineering what they were doing. They were building stucco homes which don't weather the storm in our marketplace. I convinced them to go to Hardy Board, which would give them less stringentness on their warranty department. I convinced them that they needed to do a couple smaller floor plans to get an entry-level price point to get people through the door. And I convinced them that their pricing was too high and that we needed to have a runway to be able to raise prices. And with that being said, we ended up, the company that had it sold 2 houses in a year. We sold the other 33 in 7 months. And we did it through truly understanding the product that was needed for the marketplace. And so builders always want to be right. Developers always want to be right. But when you come to them with the data and the proven track record of, hey, these are the houses that are selling in your marketplace. This is the floor plan size that's selling in your marketplace. These are the bedrooms that are needed, and here's the pricing that I think can happen. And you also understand the side of the construction where you're, I understand, I can look at a house and tell you pretty much within realm of what they built that for price per foot, because I did the research. I've studied what framing costs are, what concrete cost is going to be, what your metal roof versus shingle roof is going to be. I've made sure that I've stayed present with subcontractors in our marketplace so that when I'm speaking to these developers and I say, listen, I've done my research. I think you can build this product for probably $200 a foot. And I think I can sell it for probably $350 a foot. And here's the proof in the pudding. They really, really hone in on that. And then and I promise you, once you do one successful development with them, they're going to tell you, go find me more dirt and let's continue to pace with this. And so the land acquisition side kind of correlates
actually
to acquiring those developers,
Yeah, let me break it down where imagine you're a successful sort of plain vanilla real estate agent and you want to break into this world of helping builders, and let's like step by step. If you were training someone that has never done this before in their market, you kind of I wrote down the first part of it, but there are probably people listening that like, man, I don't even have my own website together. I don't even have my own social media together. Like taking on, it might seem overwhelming. So I want to break it down like step by step. How would you train somebody if, 3 years from now, they were able to sell 50 new builds for a builder in their market in 2026? What would they have to do in the next 3 to 6 months to allow that to be true 3 years from now or 2 to 3 years from now? Let's break it down step by step.
So first step is going to be making sure that you're able to market yourself properly. So if you don't have the website done, if you don't have the marketing background, get somebody to do that with you and really hone in on your business first, because they're going to look you up. They're going to look up the different platforms that you use. And so you've got to have some gumption behind you for you to walk in and be able to
assume that, or like a successful, I shouldn't have said that part, like they have nothing together, but like assume they have their own stuff together and just teaching like how to go about this part step by step.
Yeah. So the next step is find your builder. Go understand the product that's in your marketplace. And usually I would say a spot that you're an expert at. I think that understanding one section of the market and really being the expert at that instead of the jack of all trades, and then finding the builder that's in that marketplace that you personally think is being underserved. So that's going to take some research. That's going to take some boots on the ground where you need to go walk through, understand how they're being marketed, understand if they have a model home, if they don't have a model home, understand what their runway looks like right now, just so you can have a playbook for when you are going to go be able to get in front of them. You really need to understand where they're at in their business to then be able to provide them value in that conversation. So the first step is understanding your builder.
And you're getting some of these questions answered through the on-site sales rep?
Correct.
And what are the questions? How would that, I mean, I know, so pretend you're teaching me. I've sold like 5,000 homes, but I wouldn't even know where to start. What questions would I ask that on-site rep to kind of get into this game? So
the first question is making sure they understand their product. I mean, I would walk in as a consumer and just say, I would ask them probably some construction questions. So let me ask, is your are you 2x6 exterior construction or 2x4? Are you guys doing soft close drawers? And you can probably find some of their standard features on their websites of that development. But I would ask them construction questions and see really if they know their product, and also if they know where they're at. Where's your closest amenities, grocery store, hospital, restaurants, and see if they really know their product. So that would be my first step, is going in there and asking some pretty in-depth questions to make sure that they really are servicing that builder properly. Because I think 9 times out of 10, you're going to find that they're not.
Okay. All right. So then, and you're doing this, like you're basically doing due diligence on you're looking at their website. You're looking at, this is how they may not know how their sales rep is representing the product to consumers. So are you literally going under the guise of a consumer, or do you introduce yourself as a real estate agent?
A lot of times I'm just introducing myself as a real estate agent, that I have a consumer looking for that product.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yep.
And anything, and you said you're probably looking at 4 or 5 builders in the smaller, not the national chains. You're looking for smaller builders, and you're kind of maybe trying to present to 1 or 2 of the 4 or 5, right?
Correct. And you're looking for builders that don't have inside sales teams. You know what I mean? A lot of builders have their own sales teams on their staff. You're looking for the builders that are using outside brokerages to represent their product. And it doesn't have to be a development. It can be somebody who you see building 5 or 6 spec houses a year. You know, it can be that. And that's a great segue into getting into the developments, is you show your value on some spec houses you can sell for them, and then say, hey, I found 15 lots. You've been able to build and sell 8 houses this year. What if we kept all your subs in one place? I think we could do 15. And that it segues into that.
Okay.
But you've got to understand your builder that you're going to get. It's just like going to get a listing. You got to understand everything about that to understand where you're going to be able to provide that value.
Okay. And so what's the next step then? So you're doing due diligence. What's the next step?
Next step is when you do find that person that you think you could really help hone in some of the needs that they need to help them build a bigger platform. That's when I start really doing the research of it. I see where they're building at, and I go start searching for acquisition. I go start searching for the land acquisition, because my first step is understanding that, creating a model within that land acquisition. So let's say I found a 10-acre tract in their marketplace where they play ball. I go do all of my due diligence where I get on my interactive, county website. So I look up wetlands, I look up flood zones, I look up really utilities, utilities to the site. I make sure it's a jam up site for that developer in their marketplace. And then I make a playbook behind that. So I start looking at what is the product there. So I live in a beach community. So I look at what size homes are there, what their rental projections look like, what I think we can acquire the dirt for, then what I think the development costs to get them pad ready. And by that, I mean, from the inception of the dirt, you purchasing the dirt, to what it's going to take for you to be going vertical with new construction. And then I go through that, understand the floor plans that are needed, and that's when I set the appointment. And when I set that appointment, I'm already presenting to them things that I know for a fact they've already been thinking about. And that's when you create the clout behind who you are and how you're going to represent them, because you already created the plan for them without them even asking you to do so.
Awesome. And anyone listening, anyone on this call, if you guys have questions, just drop them in the chat and we'll get them we'll get them answered. So I don't know why my mindset, like I'm thinking about how I would go about this. And even as much regular real estate that I've sold, I would still feel insecure kind of getting into this. So there's definitely something, and maybe it's because I don't understand dirt. I don't, what would you recommend, even the pre-work to this? Like, how would somebody get into to be able to present themselves in the way that you are around construction or the process of, I'm just thinking that there's probably some other pieces that I'd be missing if I had to go out and only do this for the next 3 years. How would I train up? How would I, Nathan shared, but when he took his first 120 unit building, he studied that whole market for like 3 years before he approached his first developer. So what advice would you give someone to just train up on this before you even visited these builders as a kind of a ghost buyer?
Find your constituents. Find the people who you can lock arms with, your architects, your planning department, your engineers. I've got a land acquisition manager now, but he was in our marketplace, and he was a guy that worked for D.R. Horton and was basically running all their acquisition. I said, hey man, can I just buy you a lunch and just pick your brain for a little bit? I would really love to learn from you. And it will surprise you how many times that people don't get asked that question in certain realms. Most engineers and architects, they just sit behind their computer. They don't get really any praise. They don't get really anybody asking them for advice except for, should I move this wall or move that window? When you actually show that you're interested in what they do and how they understand things, that's when you start finding the counterparts that can do things for you in a whole different level. And so for me, to Nathan's point, like, 7 years ago, for me to run down a piece of dirt and really understand how I'm going to perform on that piece of dirt, it probably would have taken me 3 to 4 months. Now it'll take me 3 to 4 days. Not because it's me, it's because of my counterparts that I've put into place and created that have now given me the knowledge and the know-how to be able to get to the finish line a lot quicker. So I would challenge you, if you're nervous about the questions that are going to be asked of you, go do some research yourself with people who are actually in that part of the business and really ask them the questions that you feel unsure about. And a lot of times you'll realize that they feel so much value being able to give that back to you.
Yeah, and it kind of leads into Tim. Tim made a comment here and asked a question. So, you know, my question is, how do you get a meeting with the builder? But maybe that's easier than I think it is. But once you've shared this all with the builder and you kind of lay out your plan, is it literally that the builder doesn't have the resources to do it, that they're going to kind of bring you in on it? Or what's to stop them from just implementing all this stuff on their own?
Because it's not easy. So like the guys who I'm working with, they could very, very easily go create a sales department themselves, but they don't want to have to go. I've created so much value in myself that they don't want to have to go recreate what we have already done. And that's where your value comes into place is, and I have a straight up conversation with them, especially if it's somebody who I think is a really good fit for the piece of property. It's, hey, I'd love to sit down with you and show you some of the stuff that I have that I really think is going to fit the mold for how your product works in our marketplace. A little bit of a caveat is I'll help you do the acquisition. I'll make sure I'm your entire marketing department. But I also, if I'm going to present this to you because I have other people that would really want this product that would be working with me, I would like to make sure that I'm going to be able to get the listing agreement moving forward, because that's the value that I'm going to bring by bringing you this piece of dirt and opportunity. And I usually don't have to get them to sign anything. I have gotten multiple developers that I have listings that are going to not come to fruition for 4 years because we've got to develop 400 lots or whatever that is. I've had them sign extended listing agreements, but let's be real. Listing agreements are really as good as the paper that they're on. If somebody really wants to get out of the deal, they can get out of the deal. And that's why you just have to show your value, that you are their marketing team. You are their sales department. You will build their website. You will build their logo. And builders, they want two things. They want somebody to stroke their ego, and they want somebody to be seamless for them. They just want to build houses. Most builders don't have a pretty good personality because they like to be on site. They don't like to talk to people. So I bring that value, and I make sure that they understand that I know their product so well that the last person they'd want to walk away from is me.
And is it an accurate assumption, like the smaller the builder, the easier it will get them to see the value? Like, I'm just saying, as like, if I was just a single agent in my market and I presented myself to, like, maybe it's a builder that only does like 6 to 10 unit small subdivisions and they had no team whatsoever, and you visit their community, there's no agent on site. Like, would it be easier to enter into, like, find those guys to start this out? Or
Absolutely.
Like, okay.
And that's a lot of where I started. You know what I mean? Because a lot of these builders, they're finicky in the market. They're scared of it until they can see the process work. So a lot of that's where we've started is, hey, let's do 5 specs. Those went really well. I think we could do 10, and you kind of build from there. But the way that really works is especially if you can get a hold of them. And listen, if there's a listing agent involved, I'm not going to be overstepping a listing agent. We've got to keep the right reputation in our marketplace. But there's a lot of times that homes are being built that there is no listing agent yet, and that's where I sink my teeth in. I call the builder and I say, hey, I saw you're building this house off 123 Main Street, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I would really love to just have the chance to meet you there, and you tell me a little bit about it, because I'd love to just have the opportunity to bring you a buyer. So if you could, I'd love to learn more about your product. Is there any time I can meet you out at your build and you can kind of give me some insight? It'll blow your mind how much they're like, yeah, I'd love to tell you about what I'm doing, because they're excited about it. They want their ego stroked. They want to know people are interested in what they're doing. And that's when I really get after it, is when I see something in the process and it's not listed. I'll make myself known within that, with that builder, meet them on site, but I'll meet them on site with a plan in place of what the value I think I can bring to them is.
Okay. That's really helpful. So any even one-off builds, right? I mean, you're just trying to connect, and this is to Glenda's point here. And this is where I was feeling a second ago, but in my city, there's no shortage of you know, like individual builds or, you know, small subdivisions that, you know, they have no presence whatsoever. They probably don't even have a website. Like there's a 5-home subdivision. There's just like 5 homes that are being built. And I'm like, man, they're still sitting vacant and they're all done. And the front yard is like, there's no landscaping. And I'm like, what is going on here? They have to be, you know, so you're just calling on
Prime
those.
candidate.
Yeah, all day long, you're just driving around town and looking, and you're building a database. The worst case is you're gonna meet with them and just pick their brain, you know, on the
Absolutely.
process. Or if you're in the process and you don't know anything, you're just asking people like, hey, can you just maybe, you know, just I'll treat you to lunch if you know, I'll meet you wherever, and you can kind of just take me through the building process or even the land acquisition process. And then you're gonna stack little relationships on top of little relationships. But it's a longer, is it good for me to think that this is a longer term, you know, like
Absolutely.
in like 4 years from now, you would be happy that you got uncomfortable today and called a handful of builders in the next 2 weeks, right? It's
Absolutely.
and that's the only way
people
this
think I'm crazy, Lars, like, because they're like, dude, man, you got to wait 3-4 years to get paid. Well, I'm creating a career in a pipeline. I'm not creating just the next sale in 30 days. I'm going to be married to these guys for 4, 5, 10 years. But that pipeline, once it starts, it always continues to pace. But the main goal is even if it's a one-off builder, always being one, they always want to see your value. You got to be one step ahead. So let's say that you just found that one build, that's just one build right in a neighborhood that you're familiar with, and you finally get to meet that builder on site. I mean, and sometimes they won't answer my call and I'll just keep driving by until I see them on site. And I'll ask. I mean, sometimes I'm wrong. I'm like, hey, are you the builder? And they're like, oh, no, I'm the owner. Or, hey, are you the builder? Oh, no, I'm the framing guy. You know what I mean? But I'll do whatever I have to do to get there. But what I'll do is I'll know that there's another lot, an off-market lot or whatever that may be right down the road. And immediately that's where my value is. Because I'm like, man, this is an absolutely great build. I'm glad I finally caught you on site. Can you give me a little bit of insight of what you're doing here? It looks like you've got a really good process going. I'm like, oh, sure, here, come on in, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, well, are you building anything else in the area? Well, we're active in it. Well, did you know that there was a lot right down the road? It's off market, but I do think the seller would be willing to sell it. Would you want me to send you any information in that regard? Because I do think it might bring you some value. Well, yeah, I'd love that. Immediately, just right there, you just created value and showed that you're bringing them opportunity. That's the difference. When you're dealing with builders and developers, you have to bring them the opportunity. They don't want to bring it to you because then they feel like they're just giving you a handout. You want to bring them the opportunity, and that's what's going to create that relationship.
And what else would have that be a meaningful conversation? If you didn't have that pocket piece of land, would it be like, hey, have you seen what Chuck is building, you know, on the other side? Like, would it be some kind of conversation around like competition, or, you know, are you guys stacking it? Like, what would the questions to ask a builder look like if you met him on site, let's say?
How long have you been doing it? Is this kind of your favorite area that you like to build in? But really, honestly, Lars, there's always a way to find somebody value. Even if you don't have the lot, let's talk about virtual renderings. Let's talk about virtual staging. Like, a lot of these builders have no clue what technology looks like. And if it's like with one of our agents, he was trying to get this guy for years to build with him. Well, we knew that he was about to start another build in his same neighborhood. Well, we went to the job site. I saw that there was plans in his job box, took a picture of the plans, had renderings made, just praying that I was going to get the listing, showed up, said, hey, I just think I could bring you some value. I'd love to just buy you a beer or go grab you a cup of coffee and just show you what I've got, because I think you might be interested. It's in regards to the home that you have over in East Hill. Well, yeah, sure, I'd love to. We showed him these renderings and he's like, how did you do that? Like, I just took a picture of your plans that were in your job box and figured this might be an easy way for you to use this to market it before you get it actually finished, so you're not stuck holding the bag. And he was like, wow, you did that just that off of a whim? Absolutely. Well, now Jonathan's on his 4th listing with that guy. You know what I mean? Because you just brought the value. You didn't make them bring it to you. You brought it to them. Because developers and builders think real estate agents are leeches. They think we just make a boatload of money and don't have to do the work. And that you can prove to them that that's not the case.
Yeah, and that example that you just gave, that's a small builder, a one-off, one at a time type builder. Okay, so everyone can go down that path. So
Well,
I think in my head I was getting a little intimidated, like you have to get to the skill level where, you know, you're going to represent like 100 home build, you know, like 100 home neighborhood, but it's really just get in the game, have conversations, be willing to ask questions, even if you know nothing. Approach it from that standpoint until you know something and you can speak the language a little bit. So that's really, really helpful.
I'd like to chime in real quick. So like one of the things that I don't think TJ mentioned, he start where you live, like surrounding where you live. So TJ moved to West 30A, right? He didn't have a lot of business in West 30A, but he moved there and he said, you know what, I'm going to hop on my bicycle and I'm going to figure out every vacant piece that's here. I'm going to go to all the restaurants and things that surround where I live. I'm going to communicate. And it took him about a year of just bird dogging, riding around his bicycle, talking to people walking down the street, talking to people on job sites, finding different lots. People were saying, oh yeah, we got this other lot down the street. Restaurants. Someone said, why restaurants? Because that's where that whole community that surrounds where TJ was living was entertaining themselves. So great place to be in a restaurant because you can meet other people. Oh yeah, I live right down the street. I'm over in XYZ street, right? And through that, within a year of just being a patron, going to the places, getting people that knew who he was, he knows West 30A better than any other agent I know in the marketplace. And it didn't happen overnight. It took a year of riding around on his bicycle, going out, having communication, and next thing you know, you're like, oh man, like, yeah, we're thinking about building a home down the street. Oh man, I got this lot over here. Yeah, we got another one we're thinking about building over here. He just started collecting information. And then if anyone talks about West 30A, TJ's on point, and he got spot lots. He got, you know, different community opportunities and things strictly from just being a great neighbor and paying attention to everything that was going around him.
Yeah, let me ask you guys this, like what tools, I'm literally imagining if I had to go do this, like you'd have to know, like, is it Google Earth you're looking at? Like, you know, every subdivision, you're on the county websites. Like, are there any practical tools? Like, man, I wonder who owns this piece of dirt. I wonder, you know what I mean? What is that?
If you haven't downloaded the app called Landglide, download that app. I think it's $100 a year. But literally you can click on it, you can pull up on your phone, click on a parcel, and it'll literally give you everything under the sun you need to know about it for the most part. So Landglide is a huge help. But also your county website has way more than you think it does. Like our county website has a GIS map, which is basically your wetlands map. It shows all your wetland delineation. It shows all of your flood zones. It shows all of your different zonings. It shows all of the different parameters that it would take from a standpoint of what that zoning gives you from a standpoint of density. So I challenge you to it's probably going to be in your planning and zoning department at your county, but I would just spend some time navigating through that county website and make a phone call to them. If you don't know what you're looking at, call the county. You know what I mean? If you just spent a couple of days diving into a couple of pieces of, like, this is how I would challenge you. You know where you live. So go take a ride, find a piece of dirt that really makes sense for you, that you're like, man, I think this would be a great spot to build a house or build mini houses, whatever that may be, and use that as a guinea pig and go to the county, do your research and find out, is it buildable? Is it not? If it's buildable, what's the footprint? If the footprint is big, what are the setbacks of that? Like all of those different things, and the county will help you a lot. And honestly, if you call the county and you go, hey, I'm looking to purchase this piece of property and I just need to understand what I need to know about it, the planning department is going to tell you, you need to know this, you need to know this, you need to know this. And they're going to kind of give you that segue into the steps you need to understand so that you can understand what that piece of property is able to do, which in turn creates the value within that property.
Awesome. Let me ask you this. So you made the comment when I first asked to kind of lay out this step by step. What would you do? And then I've got a follow-up question about just how to work with on-site sales reps. What would you, how would you use existing new construction that's out there on your social media for people to think that you're in the know on new construction? Like, are you
Oh,
visiting subdivisions and like doing lives and like, hey, we've got this, like treating it like, how would you coach someone? Because I would imagine if a builder goes and sees your like Instagram and you're like on, you know, you have 12 different new construction videos on there. Like, is there anything in there that you could teach us?
yeah, absolutely. Plug into the process. You know what I mean? I go and try to get, so what I try to do to make sure that my clients are taken care of from a standpoint of if I'm representing the buyer in new construction is the milestones of the process. I make sure that I'm a part of with videos and content. So when they're pouring the slab, I try to find out, hey, when do you guys think y'all are going to pour the slab on this house? Well, I'm there when the pump trucks are there, and it's vibrant, it's crazy, guys. We're here at 123 Main Street. And if you look behind me, you'll see that the slab's being poured. We're super excited for the Johnsons who are purchasing this home. It's probably going to be on pace. We've got another 6 months of content coming to you. You'll see me at the framing stage, which should be in a week or two. We'll see you shortly. And if you have any questions, feel free to comment on the chat or comment on the live or whatever that may be. And it just creates that content. It creates the buzz. And a lot of times for our luxury listings that are being built, we get like start to finish videos where it's such a cool gift to give to your client too at the end of it, where we have professional videographers go in, and once it's usually framed up, that's when I start getting the video content. And man, when you can send a cool clip at the end of the whole process to somebody who spent a year of chaos, and you go, man, look how cool this is, and you've got this real-time awesome edited video that you can give to them even as a closing gift, that's super cool. Like, that's things that they don't do for themselves, but it makes you a construction expert because you're just putting yourself in the mix. Like when I worked for D.R. Horton, Nathan came in and we batted 100 for 100. Like we sold probably 20 houses on site together. And every time I knew he was coming in, I knew we were going to work properly with each other because he knew his customer and what they were searching for. But I knew my product. I knew that's the difference between our on-site agents and a lot of the on-site agents that sit in different realms is they know what's inside the walls. They know what's outside the walls. They know what warranties come with it. They know what roof material we're using. So when people ask these questions, you're not just like, oh, sure, it's a 4-bedroom, 3-bath. You're going to love it. It's well laid out. No, it's, hey, let me actually tell you, we've got impact windows. So if you're concerned about hurricanes, they're 150 mile per hour rated. We've got 2x6 construction, which will make you see that your window seals are a little bit thicker. It kind of gives you that more elegant look. And we use engineered hardwood to make sure it can weather the storm if your kids are walking in with sand on their feet. Like, it's a sales process, but understanding your product. And it makes you not have to go, hey, we're better than D.R. Horton. No, you're selling the product. So when they go to that next model at D.R. Horton, they're looking at the window seals. They're asking about impact rated windows. And I didn't have to do that. The on-site team was able to create that ambiance by just explaining and knowing their product.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so you're almost, so you're treating that, I mean, you're creating a bunch of social media around that one new build, even though you're representing the buyer. And that's just going to put you in the world of new construction. So when a builder checks out your social, you know, they're just going to see that you're in that world and you know what you're talking about.
Absolutely.
And you bring some energy and excitement to it.
Absolutely.
Right.
And the main goal, Lars, you've got to bring value to them for things they don't even know that they actually needed. And that's where you bring the value. And it's like, I mean, they don't even believe that you could create a landing page for one house. Well, what does that cost you? $3.99 on GoDaddy. You get, if you can do it yourself, or you go to Fiverr or Upwork, have somebody create a quick landing page for you for $100. And then you go, hey, I saw your product. I absolutely love it. You're on site with them and you go, look, I even created a website for your house. And they're like, what? You did that? It's just things that you know that they're not going to understand that maybe took you a day to do. They're going to go, wow, holy value. I can't believe you created a landing page or created a website for my house. Well, that's immediate value. And that's an immediate way to segue into the next step in the process, which is creating those listings within that builder. And that's where Jonathan won with his builder. Like, and that's why they're on their next steps, is because he knew that the guy was being underserviced in every facet. They just threw up a picture of the plans on MLS and said, I pray to God that they come. They didn't do any virtual staging. They didn't do anything ahead of the game. They just said, let's hope it works. But when the builder realizes that they're the one bringing the value, not the agent, they're lost.
Can you-
You're
can
losing
you-
them immediately.
In that example, can you rattle off the 6 or 7 or 8 things that are just like the value adds that they're, websites, just kind of rattle them off real quick.
I would say websites, social media, understanding their product is a huge deal. Understanding their location and being interested in them instead of trying to be interesting to them. They don't want to hear about your accolades. They don't want to hear about anything. They want you to be interested in them. So asking the right questions and bringing the 2 most important things, asking the right questions and then showing them that you're going to bring them the value. They will listen to you if you bring them that value.
And then like virtual staging, and any more of those little more tactical things like virtual staging and anything else like that.
Virtual staging, branding. You know what I mean? A lot of builders don't have any branding at all. And you need brand recognition, especially in the world that we live in right now. And technology, understanding the technology that's needed to make sure that they're present in the marketplace. They don't care about SEO. They don't care about any of that, but we do, so those are important things as well.
Simple things. Of course, we had a builder, they had no logos for anything, right? So we had a graphic designer that we met and just said, hey, could you create a cool logo for Preserve It in the Beach, right? Or this guy's having 4 or 5 homes, and you create a little logo for them. Hey, I had my graphic designer play with a few logos, so wanted to share this with you. Maybe it's something that you could use. They're like, wow, that looks great. Or man, like, let's get some branded signs that have your logo on it. That's a color scheme that you can put on any of your builds so that everyone recognizes who you are. Look at their own personal website. Look at their own social media presence. Most of them have no testimonies, shitty website, no logo, no branding. They're just building homes. They don't understand that part. So if you can bring that to them, they're like, man, that's something that no one's ever done before for us. Like, I love it.
So you could even offer like, hey, if you just, I can secure testimonials from past clients and we can include that in the website essentially. So it's like and you can probably put together a dummy website and package, even if you have no builders right now, right? You can probably put together a template website with sort of mock testimonials or something like that, right?
XP Luxury already has that.
Absolutely.
Lux VT, and you just plug in the picture and like it create a little branded site for it, and you show it. Lux VT is what they've incorporated into EXP Luxury. But if you're not in EXP Luxury, Lux VT, if you don't have the production requirements yet, you can do Lux VT. It's the same algorithm. And what's unique about that is that they don't charge you anything up front necessarily. They only charge you if the property sells and you use their marketing tools in that process. So that there's a lot of different companies out there that can make you shine without you having to be some skilled graphic designer, right?
Yeah.
You just find ways to deliver to them.
Let me ask you.
And also what's important too, Lars, is always knowing an exit strategy for your builder or developer too. Like for me, I do a lot of spec houses and understanding my marketplace where you get some scared builders out there that are like, man, I don't know if I want to do 5 of them. Well, I'll put them into a marketplace where I know what we can build for and what we can rent them for. And I'll be like, listen, let's say you build 5 of these houses and let's say the market goes to complete shit and we can't move them at all. Let's go over your cash on cash return on what these things could rent for. And then you're like, okay, on a bad day, you're making a 10% ROI until that market can correct. So your exit strategy is you're still cash on cash return, keeps you really good cash flow. And on a bad day, if we needed to dump it, we could dump it because you're going to build it at this price per foot and we're trading at this price per foot. So we could dump this any day of the week if we needed to. But at the end of the day, your exit strategy is either we dump it and you don't lose any money, or we just put a renter in there until the market recorrects and your cash on cash return is solid. That's when you can watch their shoulders kind of go down and go, okay, you have another plan for me in case, God forbid, things don't work out. Yeah.
Let me have you end with this. And I asked Nathan this question, and this will take you back to your days being on site. What are the like step-by-step 5 or 6 things that any agent can do in the new construction world to either embrace those listings as their own and market them, or work with on-site agents to build a relationship and maybe get some of those buyers that have homes to sell? Like, what advice step by step would you give us to be a good agent add value to an on-site agent and maybe get business as a result of it?
So the first thing is make sure you're in the marketplace in new construction. So even if you don't have a new construction listing or anything like that, I challenge you, even if you're going to a DR Horton community or a Coulter or a Pulte, whatever community that is, we've got a team that is no longer with us because they grew and wanted to build more, but their names are Charles C. and Jason. They are known as the new construction experts. That's what they're known for. Why? Because all of their content is at model homes. They go to model homes, they interview the on-site agent, because the thing is on-site agents understand their best customers are agents, not consumers. And so when you go in and you say, hey, can I just do a quick video with you explaining this neighborhood? Maybe you can give me a couple of tidbits yourself and we can market each other. Because then you're already creating that ambiance, and that just being in the mix, you're gonna learn the lingo, you're gonna learn so many different things that you wouldn't learn by not being there. So first off, I would challenge you to just be present in new construction marketplaces. The second thing I would do is I would challenge you to go find, like I said, the 2 top builders that you align with, that you really think that you could bring value to, and study them. Study them, study where they build, study what kind of density they're doing. By that, I mean, are they doing 10 units? Are they doing one-offs? Are they doing 100 units? Study who they are. Third, find your constituents. Find the people that are going to help you bring value to that builder or developer. So I challenge you, like, I'm sure if you looked in your database of your friends, your family, your so on and so forth, there's probably an engineer, there's probably an architect, there's probably somebody who works for the county, whether it's in any county under the sun, so look through your database and find some people that can give you some advice, because I'm not an engineer. So I'm sure if you called an engineer and said, hey, if I was going to interview a builder and I needed to talk about some stuff with it in regards to engineering, what do I need to chat about? They're going to probably give you some insight that I'm not. So is the architect. You know what I mean? So I challenge you to make sure that you have the right people in place to be able to build that platform and know that you're giving valid information and you're not just shooting from the hip. Lastly, I would say...
Oh, yeah, go ahead. No, finish your last point, then I'll ask a question.
Lastly, I would say go to the county, go to the planning and zoning department, find a piece of dirt that you just want to understand, and do your homework on it. And see if you can get to the finish line by using the people at the county of, hey, I know I can fit, like, there's so much different zoning where we live. There's conservation preservation, there's urban, there's all these different density development processes. They are going to teach you those things. So go to the county, find a piece of dirt, go to the county and navigate it through it yourself and find what you're tripping up on. And what you're tripping up on is going to give you what you need to go and hone in on as homework to then understand what value that piece of dirt brings.
Awesome. Last question. So working with an on-site rep, so you back in your DR Horton days, and it kind of the question or the comment about any resistance in kind of shooting videos or anything. How do you approach those agents where, they'll kind of let you do a video, or is that any kind of, I wouldn't imagine there's resistance, but Glenda said she's getting some resistance there.
If an agent's going to give you resistance for marketing their listing, that kind of has you scratching their head a little bit. But if you do get resistance, maybe that's not the right person for you. But I can tell you, a builder is going to want somebody to promote them. A builder is going to want somebody to be appreciative of their product, appreciative of the masterpiece in their mind of what they made. So I don't think you're going to find much stringency there. And I don't think you're going to find any issues with your big box builder. They need that.
Yeah.
But if you've got somebody who's just a little bit skittish with you coming on site and doing videos, I first would try to understand. I would say, listen, I'm just here trying to give some promotion to your listing and also the builder, and make sure that I can help you put your product out into the marketplace and bring you an offer, hopefully. But if there's resistance there, I understand, and I'll find somewhere else. I wouldn't spin my wheels if I was getting resistance. I would just pivot and find my next opportunity.
Yeah. And I'm not saying this is Glenda, but a lot of times in our own heads, we make up these things that we think they're going to be resistant to it, but we actually haven't talked to 20 on-site reps, right? If you made a commitment, like I'm going to talk to 20 on-site reps, you're gonna figure out which 18 have no problem with it, you know. So awesome. All right, brother. I know we've got a hard stop here. Appreciate your heart. I'm sure we can talk about this stuff forever. My parting thought is that this didn't happen overnight, right? These guys have 1,500 new builds, a runway of 1,500 new builds, not because they decided in 2023 they were going to do this. This started like, how old are you now?
I'm 34.
34. So 12 years ago when you got a new construction, this has been leading up to this moment in time where now you're uniquely positioned in your early 30s to be able to like, now you've got like 30 more years of just like, so it's worth the investment, but it's not going to happen overnight. So I encourage you guys to just, like Kathy said, outstanding grit, you know, and
well,
just...
and one thing I want to end with you guys with is the way we treat this and the way we've been able to build these platforms and these bigger developments is we put our neck out there. We basically pay for all of their signage, their marketing, all these different things, to the point of, hey, how do you make sure that you don't lose that listing? Well, a lot of these guys don't want to go spend the tens of thousands of dollars that it takes to sell out some of these bigger developments, to the tune that we keep the model home stocked with water, Cokes, toilet paper. We do all of the marketing packages that are there ready to roll for them, so they don't have to lift a finger except building houses, and that's what creates the value. But it does take time. But I promise you, once you find that one partner, that one building partner that you show the value you bring to them, they will lock onto you, and you will forever have listings in your pipeline because that person believes in you, and y'all work hand in hand with each other. You win together, you lose together, you fall on the sword for each other. But at the end of the day, you're powering through, and you really, really can create a solid pipeline of new construction product if you just pay attention to their needs and you really show that you can bring them value.
Awesome. Thanks, brother. We appreciate you. We'll see you guys next week. Everyone be good. Happy Thanksgiving. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.